yeah, the Doctor's just a very smart lawyer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or just any lawyer. I'm not sure you have to be a smart lawyer to know that. It's probably day one law school stuff.
Probably.
I don't know.
They don't tell you in pre-law. They wait till you get to law school and then they tell you on day one.
Right. I don't know how law education works, but I'm assuming pre-law covers pre-trial. I'm assuming
it's gotta be it.
Then when you get to law, that's actual trial. I mean, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, one must assume these things. I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is The Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
So, did you watch The Next Doctor?
I did watch The Next Doctor, and I did the thing that I do with all new Who episodes that we talk about. I watched it several times.
Several times?
Several times.
I only watched it once.
I'm not counting the times that I'd watched it previously, because those were years ago.
Right. I don't think I've actually seen this since around the time it was transmitted.
Oh, yeah?
Up until now.
Well, there's no real reason to, I guess. I mean, it's not, all that important in terms of, story or a story arc or anything like that. It's just a Christmas special.
Yeah, it's also not very good.
Okay, I was wondering how you felt about it.
Yeah, I think I like it even less than I liked it when it aired, and I didn't like it very much when it aired.
Oh, really?
It might just be, as I mentioned to you before we began recording, I'm a little sleep deprived, so I might be grumpy. And I only just watched it. So I might have been extra grumpy about it because sometimes, the mood you're in and your psychological state can have an impact on what it is, on your attitude towards what you're watching. And it may just be that I'm extra grumpy because I thought it was terrible.
Well, okay then.
And how do you feel?
I actually quite liked it.
Oh, wow. Huh.
So yes, I think this will make for a very interesting discussion.
It could very well, although I don't know how much I have to say about how I disliked it. But it started immediately. My dislike of it started immediately when the TARDIS materializes and David Tennant walks out of it. Mm-hmm. And he's walking around this Victorian street, and it's like, calm down, Murray Gold. It's just a street. And it's as though it's the most wondrous thing that has ever been. And it's just David Tennant walking on a street with some fake snow and a guy selling chestnuts and lots of people. It's just...
No, see, I thought that was fantastic. Because, it's like following along with the Doctor. He's just so into this. He's so pumped for Christmas. And he is just... Everything is exciting for him. And no, I loved that. I thought that was great. I'm actually not even kidding. I actually really liked this.
And this is not long after Journey's End.
That's true.
The devastating ending of that. And then he just walks out into a street. Victorian Christmas Eve. And then...
Well, yeah. I mean, I think we have to assume that, after those really... Just that brutal day for the Doctor, I think he was just like, you know what? I need to pick me up. And, being a Time Lord, the thing that really picks him up is, holidays on Earth. And so he just like, you know what? I'm going to go to Christmas on some random year in, Earth's history. And, of course, it'll have to be London. But the year, who knows? And so I think he was just kind of winging it. Or I don't know. Actually, it seems like he's a little confused when he first lands. So I don't I don't know if he knew that he was going to land on Christmas.
No, because he asked the boy, what day is it today? He's like, no. You know what that indicates to me? That indicates to me that he knows it's Christmas and he just wants to do the Ebenezer Scrooge thing. Like, you wouldn't ask that question if you didn't know the answer was going to be Christmas Day. Or Christmas Eve in this case, actually.
Are you? I don't know, though. I mean, I think there might be situations where you'd ask a.
When does the doctor ever ask that?
That's a pretty. Yeah, you know what? Actually, that's a pretty good point. He probably does just like hearing the sound of Christmas Eve. And he just wants to really, or either that, or he's just looking to confirm. Like, you know, maybe the events of Journey's End have kind of maybe been a little bit taxing on the TARDIS console, and he just wants to he wants to recalibrate it and just wants to verify that pointing it at a certain date will actually land him there.
Well, he's like a lawyer. He doesn't ask a question unless he already knows what the answer is. He doesn't ask a question in court unless he already knows what he's going to hear.
Well, there you go.
So, as someone who enjoyed this episode,
yeah,
can you explain to me what a cyber shade is?
I assumed it was just a bunch of leftover parts from broken Cybermen that were just kind of fitting together in sort of a weird way, and maybe they don't have an exterior, and that's why they got to wear those weird rags. I'm assuming that those were some sort of like electrostatic suppressing rags.
Oh, is that what you assumed?
Yeah, I assumed.
I thought they were like dogs that had been partially converted to Cybermen.
They could very well be. It could very well be that they had to, because like the ideal Cyberman is supposed to be like loaded up with drivers that the human brain can, you know, use. So like, you know, there's arms and legs and fingers and I don't know, a voice box or whatever. And it could very well be that they had to like severely lobotomize, either severely lobotomize human brains or take simpler brains and sort of like rewire them so that they could work off of this new, much more restrictive hardware, or not even new hardware, this sort of, you know, hacked together hardware that they had to sort of reprogram a very simple brain, because maybe the human brain is just too complicated for that sort of procedure. That's you know, that's what I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's weird that they don't have enough parts to like make Cybermen, but they can make a Cyber King.
No, that's the thing, is they can spare no parts for actual Cybermen. They have to throw all their parts into the Cyber King.
Why are they making a Cyber King anyway?
I don't know.
Because it's big and they want to stomp around on London?
They do. They really do. They crave that.
It's very strange.
Yeah, no, see, this is the thing, though. This is the thing, is that they can't, like, obviously, because they have to be, they're in, like, low power mode or whatever. That also means that they can't come up with good plans. They have to come up with easily thwartable plans because they are budgeting their power so strictly.
Well, okay, then.
Yeah.
I guess that's all my problems with this episode resolved.
No, there you go. No, that's the thing, is that this is just like this big, ridiculous episode that, you know, is just, that goes boom, and it's just this great thing for Christmas. It's just this big, very simple to understand adventure, very simple to understand bad guys and good guys, and it's very straightforward, and it's great fun for the whole family, and it screams Christmas episode.
But it's not simple. It's like so ridiculously convoluted. It's like the Cybermen were in this place called the Void because I banished them to the Void before. But then this other thing with Davros happened. And anyway, never mind. They got out and they had the info stamp, but the info stamp was broken. And then there's this lady who hates all men because there are vague suggestions that she was sexually assaulted once. But that doesn't matter. Never mind that. She goes to the funeral of some. We don't know, but it's just like all these weird, convoluted things that are just happening for no adequately explained reason.
No, but like the whole idea of how things got to be the way they are, that's, you know, it's secondary, and it's you know what, it's Christmas is the thing. It's Christmas, and how these things happened, it just doesn't even matter, because you know what, it's Christmas, and it's Christmas, and I. And you know, and that was the reason for the opening dialogue with, you know, the doctor asking the boy. It wasn't, you thought he was asking about the date. He was really asking for forgiveness if none of what was about to happen made any sense at all. And he was just making sure that this was all gonna just unfold, and the audience should just accept it. That's what he meant when he said, "Is it Christmas Eve?" You know, what he was really asking was, "Are all bets off?" and then the little boy confirmed it, and Christmas was a go. And I think you can't ask for anything more from this episode.
Can't I though? Can't I?
Nope, you can't. Although I do have to say, no, I think I didn't really understand Miss Hartigan's motivations. I mean, like the Cybermen I can almost forgive because, you know, it could be faulty programming or logic or whatever or just poor middle management that they're all
Cybermen don't really need to have motivations.
Yeah,
they just sort of got their built-in, like, we're just gonna fuck shit up and be mean to humans because hopefully if we're mean enough to them, we can convert them all.
Well, right. Yeah, and so I'm willing to just say that, like, yeah, this made sense to them. They're gonna roll with this. This is how it's gonna work for them. And, you know, why not have a giant steampunk cyber king in the middle of 1851 London or whatever? You know, and I'm certainly willing to forgive that. Although, yeah, I really don't get Miss Hartigan as a character. She seemed like kind of her motivations really seemed flimsy and confusing, and I don't know. She's kind of, I don't know.
Well, like, there's the scene towards the beginning where she goes to the funeral. Mm-hmm. And whose funeral was it? Do you know?
Yeah, it was the. Once again, I watched this episode several times, so okay. I am all up on this. So, it was the Reverend Fairchild.
Oh,
who was murdered for the explicit purpose of bringing all those other dudes together.
Okay, because she's angry at them for some reason. She just shows up and says, like, nothing of substance to them. She's like, I don't like you, I don't like you, I don't like you, and just kind of goes down the line. She's like, I don't like any of you. And then I'm just, it doesn't mean anything.
No, I think she was just trying... No, she was really just gloating, I think, because she knew that there were a bunch of Cybermen that were gonna just, you know, convert them or whatever and then subsequently murder them. So she was just kind of saying whatever came to mind. I mean, she could have said anything and it wouldn't have really mattered. So I think she just kind of... I think she was kind of winging it. And anything that she could say to confuse them long enough to have the Cybermen catch them, I think she was just going for that. But yeah, I mean, it's not that great. She's a weird sort of villain. Once again, I don't understand what her motivations were. Other than, I mean, at one point, I spent one of my viewings just really trying to answer all the questions I had. And one of the things she says is just kind of a throwaway line, is that she, like, there's one point where the doctor asks her why she's doing this, and or what she thinks the Cybermen are going to give her, and she says, liberation. And I don't know what that means.
Well, I mean, she's not happy about men in general.
No, she's definitely not happy about men.
And I thought there was a suggestion that she had been sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
Because she calls the doctor, one more man come to assert himself upon me in the night, or something along those lines. I don't know if that's the exact quote.
Yeah.
But it was something like that. Mm-hmm. So I think there's some kind of reference to the fact that something happened, and that as a result... She now hates all men until the doctor presses the magic "What have you become?" button, which is, you know, the 10th Doctor's standard way of dealing with Cybermen.
He does. I will say he does apologize for that line.
Yeah,
he literally says, "I'm sorry, but," and then he goes on to say the line. So once again, this is Christmas and all bets are off. So there is that, and yeah, I don't understand. I'm not really sure I understand why that worked. Why he broke the cyber connection, and then that sort of unlocked her mind.
Whereas she already hated everybody. She already wanted. I don't understand how breaking the cyber connection would somehow reset her to back before she. I mean, before she started hating all men and wanting to destroy the patriarchal world of Victorian England. I mean, that was prior to her cyber conversion. So
no, you know what it is? She realized she had become a man, and that was
a cyber man.
Yes, a cyber man, a king, in fact, and that is what broke her. But I think she's kind of a dumb character. But once again, it's Christmas. All bets are off.
I don't stop saying that. Stop saying
No.
that, Lewis. I
not.
do not agree to cancel any bets.
But I do.
All bets must be upheld.
No, I don't know. I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong for thinking that all bets must be upheld.
So, what do you think about the Next Doctor fake-out?
So, several things. For one, even when I was watching it the first time, I knew this was not the Next Doctor. Like, I knew this was really not the... I mean, obviously, as I was watching it this time, I knew it was not the Next Doctor. So, obviously, I knew that that was going to turn out to not be true. I mean, once again, on my first viewing many years ago, I knew that that was not going to be true. I think they actually did a pretty good job of sort of planting some doubt, though, at least in the cold opening, that it seemed almost reasonable that this could be the Next Doctor. And he certainly, David Morrissey certainly plays the part as if he were a doctor,
Yeah, I did think he was good, and I do think that if he were ever to have been cast as the Doctor, as the actual Doctor, he would have done a good job.
Yeah, I have to say, especially in the cold opening, I was very much reminded of the third Doctor. I don't know, maybe it was the cravat, but
yeah, sure.
I don't know, I really thought he was giving off a good third Doctor vibe. I mean, he didn't do any karate, but he was very action oriented, so I like that.
I don't know how well you remember how this kind of fits into the whole sequence of things with regard to like the announcement of David Tennant leaving.
I don't really remember. I know. I'm not sure. I think. I mean, the announcement that he was leaving had already happened, right?
Well, it was sort of like so at the end of the Stolen Earth, you have the fake regeneration.
Yeah.
And then that goes into Journey's End.
Mm-hmm.
And then at Journey's End, it's like, nope, David Tennant's still the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it's announced the Christmas special will be called The Next Doctor.
Right.
And everyone's like, well, it's obviously going to be a fake out. And then after that, after the announcement of the title, then David Tennant announced he was leaving.
Oh.
And then the episode aired, and so there was like, is it going to be him? Is it going to be David Morrissey? And then like everyone was speculating. I think most fans knew that it was going to be a fake out because David Tennant was going to continue being the Doctor for some time after that, like up through the end of the 2009 specials.
Right.
So yeah, I just felt at the time that like we were just kind of being jerked around. It's like. They're kind of like, oh, he's regenerating. No, he's not regenerating. He's leaving. He's not leaving. It's the Next Doctor. Oh, well, he's not. It's just like, oh God, stop. Just tell us what's really going on. And I mean, obviously, I didn't necessarily feel that way anymore because I know how it all played out in retrospect, having watched it this time. But I still kind of felt like it sort of reminded me how obnoxious that whole thing was.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, certainly. I mean, I guess I feel like maybe at the time I wasn't so much of a fan. I mean, like I was a fan, I was watching the show, but I don't think I was as into like all the buzz and stuff like that. So I vaguely knew that David Tennant, announced that he was retiring. But, I don't know, this stuff was all very new to me, and I think that as a part of that, I still had that sort of wide-eyed innocence about, the show, and I was, still just excited about everything and just everything that was happening. And so I think that in a lot of ways I just kind of glossed over that whole thing. And so I don't know, it just I don't really have that much of a sour taste in my mouth over that whole thing, and I don't really have any bitter memories of that. So I mean, it could very well be that I am a very small minority, and everyone for the most part kind of hates this. But no, I don't really remember it all that well, and I don't think I was that into it. So I don't know. I guess I was kind of spared.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of annoying how they kind of made a big deal about it, and then they sort of dispensed with it early in the episode and kind of waved it away. And it's like, oh, no, he's not the Doctor. About halfway through the episode.
Well, to be fair, I mean, they made a big deal out of it so that those first few minutes would leave you questioning, maybe this is the Next Doctor. And, I don't know, after that, they can, dismantle it.
I guess.
I don't know. I mean, if they had come out, during the Children in Need preview or whatever, or whenever they announced things, if they'd come right out and said, nah, David Morrissey's not really going to be the next Doctor. God, everyone knows that. Come on, fans. Can't you figure that out? And if they had just said that, I think, I don't think that this episode would have been, I think that, it would have been silly. Well, it was silly. I don't know what I'm saying.
It was silly. Yeah. Well, at the time it was written, I don't know if they even knew David Tennant was leaving yet. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I don't think he made the decision until shortly before it was announced. And obviously this episode was written and filmed long before that.
Interesting.
So it could be, I don't know. I just because I know that Tennant had meetings with Moffat to discuss plans for Series 5 and whether, David Tennant might have been the Doctor in Series 5 instead of Matt Smith. And so it could have been that this episode, it feels in retrospect like it was kind of, playing weird games with the fandom kind of, but it might not have been intended that way.
Could be. On the one hand, in a sense, it's the production crew's job to keep the fans on their toes. How much effort they should put into that, I don't know. Perhaps this was too much effort, but I don't know. But it's a fun way to watch this episode is to imagine to replace David Morrissey for the actual 11th Doctor, and to imagine this episode playing out if it was the 11th Doctor who is fighting the Cybermen in 1851 London, and the 10th Doctor just happens to walk in on it. Possibly the 11th Doctor with his memories removed, or whatever. Because I feel like
wait, so you're saying this episode is more fun if you just mentally erase David Morrissey and replace him with Matt Smith?
I'm saying it's a fun thing to do.
Oh.
I'm not commenting on whether or not it's more fun.
Oh.
But because I and it almost makes me happy that we are actually going to see David Tennant meet up with his next incarnation, or possibly it's going to be 10. I don't know. Maybe it'll be the Meta Crisis Doctor,
or a Zygon duplicate,
or a Zygon duplicate. Any of these things are possibilities.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, though, actually, that when David Tennant meets up with David Morrissey, he thinks that, this must be the next Doctor, or perhaps the next but one.
Mm-hmm.
He says that, which is kind of interesting because there's the notion that, obviously the real next Doctor is Matt Smith, and the next but one is Peter Capaldi, who may indeed be the final Doctor. In that sequence, if there really is this John Hurt Doctor who counts as a regeneration and was prior to David Tennant,
right,
prior to Christopher Eccleston even. So if maybe he's thinking of that, and he's like, well, there's only two more. That couldn't have been what Russell T Davies was thinking at the time when he wrote this, but
right. But that's a little bit of that makes extra retroactive sense. I don't know. That's kind of cool, or that could be cool if in fact the John Hurt Doctor is a past regeneration. So that could be a very neat little retroactive Easter egg.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool to think about. That maybe the Doctor knows. Maybe the Doctor knows. Yeah, and the next but one line probably was just to sort of cover their base in case the series of events that happened basically did happen, except that also they announced that Matt Smith would be the 11th Doctor. And so if that had been announced before the airing of this episode, they could have still kept a little bit of the mystery and say that, oh no, it's the 12th Doctor.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was a good, from a writing perspective, that was a good way for Russell T Davies to sort of not back himself into a corner, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of was. I might be wrong about this, but I think I'm right about it. I think this episode is the first episode of New Who to feature clips of all the previous Doctors.
You might be right about that. I feel like when I saw this, I found it exciting, and I think that means that I'd never seen it before. But no, I think you're right, because they do it in subsequent episodes. I know they do it in the 11th hour. They possibly even do it in between this episode and the 11th hour. I'm not sure, but I think that you're right. I think that this is the first time where we see that, where, they show those clips. I just remember that. And I remember, because at this point in time in my fandom, I had not seen all the Doctors in action, so this was kind of a cool thing for me to see them all represented on screen in some fashion. So yeah.
Yeah, there had been drawings in Human Nature.
Oh, right.
And Utopia had featured some audio of previous versions of the Master. But this was, the biggest incorporation of material from the classic series up to this point.
Right. And yeah, and it's kind of weird. I mean, the Doctor explains these clips as being stolen from the Daleks, and how much sense that makes. That
how they have footage from Voyage of the Damned, I'm not sure.
Right. So you do kind of have to wonder about that. I think we have to assume. In a past episode, we theorized that all of Doctor Who is taking...
We did, didn't we?
Right, it's taking place from the Doctor's perspective, and these are the Doctor's memories of how events played out. But I feel like there must be wiggle room in there. Maybe it's sort of divvied up where some episodes are the Doctor's memories, and some of them are like Dalek spy cams of spy camera footage of the Doctor doing things. I don't know how the Daleks were able to record this, but they must have like secret spy cams everywhere.
But I mean, they live in the void now?
Oh, maybe.
At this point, the Daleks are all in the void. How could they have an active network of like spy cameras everywhere?
That's true. No,
doesn't make sense.
You're right. Oh no, you know what it is? These episodes are indeed all of the Doctor's memories, but at some point in the Doctor's future, the Daleks must steal all his memories. And they must, right? So they steal.
Why not?
Right, they basically steal his Doctor Who episode collection.
So they have the missing episodes.
They must,
if the Doctor in fact remembers them.
Right. So in order to get these missing episodes, all we need to do is just find the Daleks in the void and just take back this Doctor Who collection.
Yeah, well, it's actually indicated in the Snowmen that the Doctor doesn't remember the Web of Fear.
Oh, that's right.
He doesn't seem to remember the Great Intelligence being in the underground with the Yetis. So maybe the missing episodes are just the episodes that the Doctor doesn't remember, and that's why they're missing.
He just remembers snapshots with vague stage directions.
Yes,
I'm sure that's it. So I think this makes sense now.
One thing that kind of annoys me, and it's not specific to this episode, it's generalized to the entire Russell T Davies era.
Yeah.
The way that the Cybermen are, much like the Daleks, are treated as every time they appear, there needs to be a justification for how they escaped their apparent previous total destruction.
Yeah.
And then it ends with their apparent total destruction, for which future excuses will need to be made.
Yeah.
And unless I'm mistaken, no excuses are ever made for the Cybermen in the future again. The next time we see them is in the Pandorica Opens. And
right.
There's no explanation as to how it could be there.
Right. Yeah, there's no explanation. There's no explanation in that episode. There's no explanation in Closing Time either, I don't think.
Yeah, it's not even clear whether the Cybermen in any Moffat-era episodes are from Pete's world, or whether they're from the planet Mondas in our universe, or where they're from, or whether they, like, met each other and merged, or if they're from some unspecified other universe. The Moffat-era just doesn't bother with that.
Right.
Which I think it's better that way, personally.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would say... yeah, I don't know. I do have to say, it's kind of silly to bring back I think this episode is just mostly silly, and that's why I kind of give it a pass. But, I mean, it is silly to bring back these Cybermen who are supposed to be this huge threat, and then just kind of destroy them again, and then say, like, oh, yeah, they're defeated forever again. And have this just be kind of like this little thing that just sort of is a self-contained episode that just, like, yeah, they're back, but now they're gone again. And then we wash our hands and then we just move on. And I think that's kind of, I don't know, it's almost kind of wasteful, I want to say, it just goes around, you got these great villains and they just kind of, they waste them.
It's wasteful.
It is.
Yeah. Waste not, want not.
Exactly. Or as the case may be, waste net want net.
Yes. Exactly.
So yeah, I think it's completely unnecessary. I don't know, and that certainly was the way that Russell T Davies did things, and that did get kind of tiresome. I'm glad that Stephen Moffat has not done that. That he's completely okay with just letting the Daleks go off and do their own thing. And I appreciate that. I don't think you need to have the Doctor always defeat his enemies entirely. Sometimes it's interesting to have it be kind of a mixed victory,
Yeah, well, it would be fine to have him defeat them entirely if that really were the end.
Right.
But what's the point of having him defeat them entirely when you, the writer, and the audience, everyone knows they're just going to be back, if not next year, then the year after that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
The Daleks have appeared on screen every year since Doctor Who has returned in 2005. And there's I think there's a conspiracy theory out there somewhere that as part of the agreement with the Terry Nation estate to use the Daleks in the new series, they have to appear every year.
Okay. Sure. That's a fun theory.
Because they appeared briefly in the waters of Mars for almost no reason.
Wait, really?
There's a flashback of how Adelaide had seen a Dalek when she was a little girl.
Oh yeah! Wow, I'd completely forgotten about that.
And it doesn't seem to have much to do with anything.
Right.
So yeah, there's all these dark conspiracy theories out there.
Well, there would be, wouldn't there?
There usually are.
And what would life be like without a few juicy conspiracy theories?
I guess it wouldn't be much of anything, would it?
No, I should say not. But I don't know. I mean, I think that you have to wonder if Russell T Davies sort of planned that. Like if he was thinking during the season 1 finale that like, oh yeah, these guys will be back in the Daleks will be back in season 2. I'm sure that'll be a thing. Like,
oh, I bet he did.
Really? You think
he seems to have had a lot of it mapped out from the very beginning.
That could be. I mean, surely he couldn't have. Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah. If it was his intention when he was writing the season 1 finale to be like, oh yeah, I think in season 4 these guys are gonna come back and I don't know, they'll have some sort of reality bomb. I haven't hammered down the details yet. I got a few seasons to go, but
Well, I think he probably at the very least had like a rough outline. All right, okay, so season 1 we're going to do the Daleks, and then season 2 we're going to do the Cybermen, and then have them face the Daleks, and then season 3 we're going to do the Master, and then in season 4 we're going to do Davros, and then after that we're going to bring back the Time Lords, and then I'll be done. Then I'll have done it all by that point. So
yeah, that sounds that sounds reasonable, and it also sounds like a hyperactive child.
Well, you know what? You know what's kind of interesting? This isn't quite true, but it's almost true. That's the order in which those things were introduced in the classic series.
Oh, really?
Sort of, because the Daleks the Daleks were in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
The Cybermen were introduced in season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Master was introduced in season 7.
Ah.
And then Davros was in season 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gallifrey itself, you don't really get to see until, season 14 or 15? I don't even remember. The Deadly Assassin. You get little glimpses of the Time Lords and glimpses of Gallifrey before then. But there's only like a story that's set on Gallifrey that kind of like introduces you to the Time Lords and what they're all about at that late time after all those other things have been introduced. So I had this... I've always wondered whether, maybe Russell T Davies was doing that intentionally, sort of bringing everything back in the order in which it was originally introduced.
That's really funny. I never really thought about that, but that's it's kind of interesting. It's a pretty good idea, actually. To sort of as almost like a primer for classic Doctor Who. Like you got to figure not everybody is going to go back and rewatch all of Doctor Who. So if for people who are only going to watch the new series, let's give them a quick primer. It'll take 4 seasons, and sort of get them up to speed on all things Doctor Who, and that's kind of nice. Yeah,
he pretty much introduced every major concept in Doctor Who, in order.
Yeah,
and that's most of his arcs are around like the bringing back of things,
right.
Like things that have been thought gone forever, but are suddenly returned.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether that order was... It may have been very deliberate.
Yeah. Well, it certainly seems, there's only like a 1 in 16 chance that order would have happened. So,
yeah.
I don't know. That's neat.
Anyhow, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with this episode.
Well, no, not really.
Although I think I probably said most of what I can usefully say about this episode, which is that I don't like it. I don't like the hot air balloon battle. I don't like it.
No, I mean, once again, I thought this was a really fun episode. I'm gonna say I might sound a little bit hypocritical for how much I hated Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, but I think this was a fun romp.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I really do. And you know what? I do sound hypocritical, and you know what? I don't care.
Well, that's good. As long as you don't care.
That's right. I found it interesting that, like, the turning point where the Doctor finally realized that Jackson Lake was not the next Doctor was when he has money. And the Doctor comments on, like, oh, you got a lot of money. And I don't know what Jackson Lake says. I think he says something like, you get nothing for nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the point where he's like, hold on, you're not the Doctor. And so I think it's a little bit funny, and I've brought this up before, that the 11th Doctor does not have similar money issues, and I think he just conveniently wins the lottery whenever he wants. So I would say that, if this had been Matt Smith, in this episode, and 10 commented on, what, oh, well, you got a lot of money, I think that 11 would have just commented on how he won the Victorian lottery, and that would have been that.
Yep, probably.
But yeah, I don't know. So I just think it's kind of weird how Stephen Moffat has completely abandoned the idea that the Doctor is poor and that he has no money.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea.
The idea
of him being poor and having no money. I wish
I like that too.
Have that back.
Yeah.
It's
I have to say, if there's one thing that I really wish Stephen Moffat would change, it's that.
Well, the 10th Doctor, I mean, he was easily able to get money if he needed it.
Right, yeah. But he never did, because you know what? He was making a statement, probably. I don't know. You don't have to have money to be smart. I don't know.
You probably don't.
But I mean, yeah. I mean, because it seems... I may have already even said this in a previous podcast, but I if you have enough money, you can just solve problems through money. So I don't understand why the 11th Doctor doesn't do more of that.
I don't know.
It seems like, he could have solved the missiles problem in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship by just throwing money at them.
Probably.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of, like, we mentioned in our discussion of Planet of the Spiders, like the whole Barry Letts Buddhism thing.
Oh yeah.
Where the Buddha was a child of privilege who forsake his wealth to get rid of his attachment to things. And, the Doctor, he's a lord. He's a time lord. He comes from an estate. He had an estate on Gallifrey. Or at least his family did. And so he came from a society of wealth and opulence and sort of fled into the universe with nothing but a rickety old TARDIS. So I do like the idea of him just not having any money and not really having anything to do with that.
Yeah.
And just sort of running away from that.
Yeah, I like that too, and I kind of miss it. I mean, like, hell, he probably could have just bought a crystal from Metebelis 3.
Yeah, the whole problem was that he stole it. I mean, maybe he had paid fair market value for it.
Right, yeah, that follows. In fact, maybe that was it. Maybe that's why the 11th Doctor did have that crystal, because he bought it.
Because of his money.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to assume.
Yeah.
I mean, I could comment on, like, how this didn't look all that great on Blu-ray and why it was...
You watched it on Blu-ray.
I did. And it seems silly to me because it was just an up conversion from, the DVD release or whatever, or whatever format they had it in. They transferred it to Blu-ray and upscaled it. And it was weird. I mean, like, I guess the picture kind of looked clearer, but I mean, you're sacrificing compatibility when you do that because... it's still an SD quality video, and they're putting it on a Blu-ray disc. So, you can't play it in a normal DVD player, even though it is normal DVD quality, and that seems kind of silly to me. Also, I'm assuming the DVD release doesn't have this, but there are these sort of almost imperceptible but crazily annoying small black bars that appear on the left and right sides of the frame. And I mean, that could just be the way that my television was displaying them, but I mean, like, it was annoying.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, I don't know whose job it was to convert this to Blu-ray, but
that may be like, what is that called? Overscan? Could that have anything to do with that?
Yeah, I mean, because there is the issue of overscan. I mean, some TVs. I mean, the thing is that I have a flat panel TV, which I think doesn't have overscan. Like, because I mean, there are times where I will have DVDs do that, where it's like along the edges I'll see that there's these maybe it could be like 5 pixels wide or something, because
they're assuming that you're playing it on a TV that has some kind of overscan. And HD TVs do simulate overscan in certain modes.
Yeah,
if you're sensible, you turn that off. But
right. Well, yeah, you're missing pixels possibly. Yeah, and that is true. I have disabled like the overscan on my TV, although I did that partially because I basically have a computer connected to my TV, and you can't cut off parts of a computer screen.
Right. Yeah.
So
you can.
Well, yes, you can cut off as much as you like. It just won't make for as an enjoyable user experience. It could very well be that they were assuming that I wasn't going to be watching this on a television like I was.
They could have just assumed that you were going to stare at the disc rather than watching it on a television. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shall I randomly select the next episode to watch after The Next Doctor?
Sure.
All right, I've got my randomizer open. I am choosing a random story. It's Colony in Space.
Okay.
It's a Jean Pertwee.
Ah, nice.
That's not how you say that guy's name.
It would be if he were French.
Yes, probably.
Probably, or he'd be like something entirely different.
Yep.
I don't know what a French name sounds like.
Yeah, this is part of season 8.
Ah.
Part of season 8. Season 8 is a season which is known for having in every story in season 8, it's the same villain.
Really?
Yeah, it's the Master.
Aw.
It's the Roger Delgado version of the Master.
Huh.
In every story in season 8.
Ah, cool.
So you should expect to see him.
That's good, because I don't think I ever have seen him.
Yeah, if my knowledge of what you have seen and what you have not seen is correct, which it may well not be, then I don't think you've ever seen him either.
Well, there you go.
Because I think we mentioned that before.
I think we did.
I think it's been discussed.
Yes.
So unless you've seen anything new since then that I haven't heard about, you haven't, had you?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, well, that's good.
Possible that I watched some Doctor Who, out of the corner of my eye.
Yes, it is possible. So, Colony in Space.
There you go.
Wow.
I look forward to it.
As well you should.
Is it good?
Is it good?
Actually, don't answer that. I don't want to know.
Oh, okay.
I want to be surprised.
All right, then. I will tell you, though, that it is about a colony.
Oh, is it in space?
Well, it's kind of on a planet, actually.
So the opposite of space.
Well, I think it's in space in the sense that, space is anything that's not on Earth.
I guess. I've never really understood that.
It's just an Earth-centric view of the universe, I guess.
That's not cool.
No.
It's very oppressive.
Really not.
It's oppressive for the rest of the galaxy.
It certainly is, and other galaxies, too.
Yes.